What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Shawn and Maya in the morning on this TGI Mickey Ficky Friday weekend edition, baby. Weekend, baby. I love it. I like it. I like it a lot. Guys, I'm your boy, the Superback Shawn Sierra, tuning in. I am fired up this weekend. It's about to be a high of 90. And thanks for tuning in and checking us out. Listen, I don't even know. I'm so fired up. We had some great guests. So we're going to get to it quickly. Listen, now, if you watch this on Facebook Live, well, then I guess you found us on Facebook. Now, you can also tweet the show. You can tweet us at SM or at SportsZone Chi. That's SportsZone CHI at SportsZone Chi. Now, if you want to follow me, just me personally online, want to know what I did? Let me tell you what I did. Want to know what I did? Here's what I did. I made it nice and easy for you folks. Nice and easy. One handle for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the Snap on. All one handle at the Shawn Sierra. And oh, yeah, she's waiting in the wings. She's bouncing. She's jumping like she's about to come out for the fight. She's ready. She got a little glisten on her face. She's all oiled up. She's ready to go. My co-host, the co-pilot in this insanity, the one, the only, Lil Savage herself, Maya Akai. What up, Maya?
Are you trying to say I need to go put like some powder or something on my face? Because I'm glistening. Like I'm glistening. Yes. I got to come out like what? Am I too shiny on camera? What are you saying? No. Yeah, no, I might be. I got drenched. My hair is still wet, whatever. So, hey, but you're right. Looks like we have a new guest coming on. I can't wait to chat with her. Yeah, so it's going to be great weather. So let's get all the rain out of the way. With that being said, of course, you know how to follow Shawn in the show. So you can always find me on Facebook and Twitter at The Sports Chica. And if you happen to be an Instagrammer, you can find me at Maya_Akai.
Ooh, underscore. Oh, we fancy, huh? We fancy, huh?
Yes.
Underscore.
Underscore, yes.
Hey, guys, we have a great show, like Maya said, but I need you. Maya needs you. We need you to get interactive with us today. So do me a favor. Text us. All right, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, okay, just leave a question or comment right there on the post. Okay, and it'll come up on our screen unless it's a really stupid question and it's not going to come up and I even won't put it through. Or if you're listening to us on the app, and we highly, highly, highly recommend you download the app. Check us out on the app. It's free. iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your apps from. Download SportsZone Chicago. And if you're listening to us on the app, guess what? You can text us from the app. You can call us from the app. And pretty soon you're going to be able to watch us from the app. That's how crazy we be acting.
But
Friday,
remember,
so it's all important.
But don't forget, if you happen to miss any of our shows or other shows that are live right now with us, like the Humidor Sports and Cigar podcast, you can go back and listen to their shows in the podcast section, as well as you can watch the live show that was broadcast on the app as well right now. So, you can still catch up with former shows without having to scroll through Facebook and all that stuff. It's all right there in the app.
Shut the front door. Ma, you've been doing stuff I'm telling you, you're doing stuff I don't even know about it. That's why they call Lil Savage. Okay? That's why they call Lil Savage.
Yeah, that's why they call me that. No. Anyways.
Well, listen, we got a great lineup today. But first, I want to introduce the man behind pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But actually we are our Puerto Rican Swiss Army knife himself, Ivan Vargas. Ivan, what's up, Papa? How are you?
Hey, good morning, guys. That's funny. Little Sav over there. Little Sav.
Here we go.
Starts off with Little Savage, now just Little Sav. Look at you.
These names are just evolving. Every time I get on the show, the name is evolving. So, okay, I'm good with it.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. I'm going to call you the Wizard since you're behind the curtain.
I like that. See,
I like
it.
I'm going to
call me the Wiz. I get to be called the Wiz?
You get to be called the Wiz. Yes. There you go.
Just don't make me watch it again.
Are you kidding me?
I can't.
I love the Wiz.
I can't.
Oh my!
I cannot.
You like musicals?
Really?
You're not like musicals? What's the issue?
I just can't. I can't watch Wizard of Oz either.
No. Did you watch the original movie, The Wiz?
I've watched both of them.
Okay, I mean, because the musical was whatever. I mean, I like the movie, so you can't.
Yeah, if you can't watch the Wizard of Oz either, we got to talk.
I'm not saying I can't watch it. I'm saying don't make me do it again.
Okay, which is like saying don't make me watch it. Okay.
Yeah, please.
That's pretty much what that's saying. Okay, it's all good.
We got to talk to our boss. We need to have a meeting afterwards.
Hey,
I don't know if this type of shenanigans can continue. I don't know. Don't like the Wizard of Oz. What's wrong with you?
I'm just saying.
I mean, how can you not like a movie with flying monkeys? I mean, that did it for me right there.
Dorothy's all like, I can't do that. It's like, Dorothy, you got all these like crazy creatures helping you out, and yet you're still like, I just want to go to Kansas.
She's from Kansas. What did you expect?
Straight from the sky, man. Straight from the sky.
Nothing wrong with people from Kansas, by the way, but okay.
I hear you. All right, guys.
Hey, we got a great show for you. Listen, we have Ron Luce. You guys remember Ron? He's from the On Tap Sportsnet. A couple of people got inducted into the Hall of Fame. A couple of Blackhawks, and talked to Ron Luce about it from the On Tap Sportsnet. He's calling in early at 9:30. So I'm excited and fired up to talk about those guys. And then we have a new guest caller calling in today, Beth Mishler-Elmore. She writes for Heavy.com. She's a Bears reporter for them. And she wrote a couple of articles. And we're going to talk about the Bears season, their opening training camp. They set a date. I'm excited. And you know me, I can talk football 24/7, 365. Even though I'm a Sox house head, don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. Bears football 24/7, 365. That's how I do. But guys, you know how we do. The first segment of every show is called Top of the Morning to you, and these are the hot topics of the night before, just sports in general. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have some doozies. Let's see, which way do we go? Which way do we go? Which way do we go? Start this way. There was let's go back to the other one. We mentioned it earlier. This happened the other day on our day off. Two, not one, but two Chicago Blackhawks get inducted into the NHL Hall of Fame. I'll tell you what, it was not surprising for one.
Okay.
And it had taken a while for the other. Marian Hossa, we know him, Big Hoss, number 81, who was just a powerful figure in front of the net. If you ever watched Marian Hossa, if you're a Blackhawks fan, you saw how many this guy was strong. He could handle the puck. I'd watch him handle a puck with one arm while he's being checked by somebody else. Marian Hossa is Hoss. He was a scorer. He was a phenomenal two-way player. And if he'd not been such a phenomenal two-way player, he might even have had more points. And he just focused on the offensive side of the ball. Marian Hossa gets inducted on his first try.
And no surprise about that.
No,
I mean, I'm gonna tell you how crazy it was when Marian Hossa. He had a soft retirement. You know what I mean? When he left, it wasn't like, it was like question mark, might he come back? And then it was a medical issue, and then he was gone. But can I just say, the minute he stopped being on the team with the Hawks, you immediately begin to see the decline in the play. And that's crazy because you're like, the old man was holding it down like that. The old man was holding it down like that. Seriously. So to me, I am not shocked. He was an instant upgrade when they picked him up from, was it Detroit, if I remember correctly?
It was Detroit or Pittsburgh. I remember.
I'm not sure it was. I think it was Detroit, but
It was he lost to Detroit with Pittsburgh, and then he went to Detroit and then lost with Detroit to Pittsburgh. Then he came to the Hawks.
Yeah,
right. So it was Detroit.
Phenomenal. Right. He's the only guy with three consecutive Stanley Cup appearances with three different teams, because he went to Detroit, he lost to Pittsburgh, then he switched sides, and they met in the Stanley Cup Finals again, and he lost again, and then finally in 2010 is when he came here, and that's when we won. So he was you talked about an instant upgrade. He was a phenomenal two-way player. It was awesome. And the other person who got inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Hawks was Doug Wilson. My goodness, this guy was a three-time All-Star, won the 1982 Norris Trophy as the best defenseman in the league. He had a slap shot from the point that was unbelievable. He had a slap shot from the point that could rival any slap shot today. It was unheard of. And to get, if you're a goalie, because don't forget the technology and the goalie pads weren't as sophisticated as they are now. To get a Doug Wilson slap shot to the chest back then was not a nice thing. It's like getting hit with rubber bullets. Is what it was.
Yes, that would be a good descriptor. Yes, that's how it was. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So it was great having two Blackhawks get inducted, the 37th and 38th Hawks alumni to get inducted into the National Hockey League Hall of Fame. It's just the fifth and sixth this century. You had Dennis Savard, you had Eddie the Eagle Belfour, Doug Gilmour in 11, and Chris Chelios in 2013. So it's a very good representation for our Blackhawks, and I like it. I like it a lot.
But but two things I have to say. Love Marion Hossa, but I'm just going to tell you something. He got no flack from jumping around between Pittsburgh and Detroit. Let that be Kevin Durant, and people still be talking about it. People are still giving Kevin Durant flack about, obviously leaving OKC and going to Golden State after that matchup and the loss. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But only Marion Hossa can roll with that, and nobody's like, you was kind of jumping around between teams you shouldn't have been moving between. But hey, either way, we'll take it in Chicago. We're happy, and no complaints about it. But hey, you can't go on without talking about Jerome. Jerome, and yes, Iginla. Yeah,
one of the premier black players in hockey. When he came in, he was an enforcer, but he was also highly, highly skilled, and he put up some points. He'd knock you. He was one of those guys. He was one of those newer wave guys. Remember, there was a point in time back when the Hawks were winning titles where teams had big and fast guys who were not just big and powerful and brutish, but fast.
Yes,
and that was Jerome Iginla, and he liked to lay the wood on you. My goodness. He would put you up on a board. I don't know if he loved that more or scoring a goal more, because he loved checking people big time.
Yes, he did. So you can't go in the segment without giving notation to the brother for making the Hall of Fame. The hockey. That's right. The hockey Hall of Fame. That's right. That's right, bro.
I see you, bro. Next top of the morning topic. How about this, Maya? Ex-Simeon star, ex-Chicago Bulls star, ex-Duke Blue Devil star, forward Jabari Parker has tested
ex-Milwaukee Buck. Did you say ex-Milwaukee Buck? Did you say
that
too?
I didn't say that now, because it's Milwaukee.
But that's where he started. You can't just jump past that.
He's Chicago. Okay.
No, obviously wasn't. That didn't work out too well.
Yeah, thanks, Boylan. Anyway, unfortunately for Jabari Parker, he came down with the coronavirus. He tested positive for it. He expects to join his team in Orlando. He's been quarantined ever since he figured out he posted several days ago. He tested positive and self-isolated in Chicago, where he's remained.
Yeah, that's pretty much where you need to stay, because part of the issue here is that there is not enough research or data that tells us if you can actually recontract the COVID-19. We don't know that yet. So we're operating under the assumption that once you get it, it's done. We're hoping it's not like the flu where, obviously you could get it repeatedly. So I would be honest, if I'm his teammate, I'd be like, why don't you just sit out the rest of the season? It ain't like we going nowhere. I'm just kidding.
You're horrible, Maya. You're horrible.
I
don't know what I know they're asking people who've recovered from it if they can go. They want to get some of their plasma to kind of help try and find a cure or a vaccine for it.
Oh, antibodies, right?
Yeah. So,
right.
But I don't know if people have actually cannot get it again once they've gotten it. So
we don't know yet. We have no idea yet. So that's the next thing we'll figure out when they really do a lot more research and gather more data. So, ahead of them trying to start the season, here you go. I don't know. I just think that sports in general, this is going to be a slippery slope.
Very.
Because just this easily, you could, not that he was necessarily a key player on his team, but just this easily, you could lose a key player. And I kind of feel like, I'll be honest, if I'm on a team that's not in contention for anything, I don't know that I return. I might just sit it out. I'm serious. I may not take the risk. It may not be worth it at this point, to me personally.
There are a couple of players in the league who have decided not to come back. Boogie Cousins was one of them, and a couple other ones. So it was. It's not far fetched. It's not far fetched because you're literally in a vacuum. You can do some damage to some players, especially if they have kids. What happens in that bubble? Is your family going to come down? Your wife and kids bring them down. It is a slippery slope. So you're right. If you're not, I mean, the only people in Orlando are the ones in the playoffs. But if you really think that you're not going to make it or your team's not going to win,
if you're on the bubble, and I mean legitimately, like you realize you're barely touching the bubble to be in the playoffs, I don't know. I mean, that's people probably like, you're a poor sport. Why would you not go? Because it isn't. Here's the problem. Just because you can contract COVID-19, it doesn't mean you're going to die. It just means you're in quarantine for 14 days and it's ugly and it's not nice and it's no fun. You know what I mean? And then generally you come out. What we don't know is there have been deaths connected to it that were people that didn't fall into that high risk population.
Yes.
And that's the problem. So it's like, well, why did that person die? They were perfectly healthy. Was there something underlying medically that we didn't know about? So here's the thing. It's a 50-50. You may walk away from this being perfectly healthy, or it could create other complications for you, or something could be wrong that you didn't even know that you had going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so,
yeah.
So I don't know.
It's going to be, we're going to see how it plays out with him and everyone else down in Orlando, down in Disney World. Couldn't remember if it was World or Land. Well, the next top of the morning topic, the Cubs say the rooftops will be open. You must be happy, Ivan. Cubs say the rooftops will be open. Okay, they don't have to deal with the same laws as Major League Baseball does. They're doing because it's outside. It's another venture for them, for the Cubs who own all of the rooftops now. Now they have them all.
They have them all. They got that last man standing one.
The last one, the one we recorded on, the one right next to the firehouse.
Right.
That was the last man standing. They got that one.
Oh, they must have paid them nice, like, hey.
Oh, they had to.
Handsomely. Okay, well,
I wonder if it would have been like a $2 or $3 million house property. Because, I mean, houses go for like $1 million, or, 2 flats and stuff. They go for like a million change over there.
Yeah, but I'm also factoring the fact that I was a rooftop business and that generated extra revenue for me.
That's why I said $2 or $3 million.
So I'm calculating what potential revenue I could lose. But I mean, hey, you know what? It's a unique opportunity that they have, and kudos to them. I'm not mad. Now, granted, that ticket is going to be hefty. And I'm assuming, are you giving preferential treatment to season ticket holders, or is it first come first serve? Now, see, here's the thing: if I'm a season ticket holder, I'm about to get in my feelings about this.
Yeah.
Why? Because
your tickets are in the stadium.
No. I'm gonna tell you why I'm about to have my feelings about it. Because I'm the person who pays to sit in the stadium on a consistent basis, and there's a situation that has arisen that I can't control. So you're telling me I don't get preferential treatment when I pay all that extra cash when that stadium is open? See, this is where membership is supposed to have its privileges. I'm just saying.
But they gave their money back. They can't keep that money for all the games that were gone.
I get it.
Your money back.
I'm just saying, I kind of feel like there should be some preferential treatment to season ticket holders on this. And I'm sure the non-ticket season holders are probably like, Maya, shut up. I'm just saying, I feel like people who always invest that extra money and just don't go game to game, they deserve something extra for that. But that's just me.
That is just you. I don't know how it's going to play out. We're going to see, because that is a very, very pertinent point. Very good point. I want to see how it does play out.
And with everything being said, because everything's going to be at a limited capacity regardless. So it's like, I mean, depending on how the time frame of, are they going to open it up in like another month? Are you going to catch like the first 30 games with like 20% capacity, and then the next 30 games at like 40% capacity? So like everything seems to be like changing constantly. So I mean, to see, depending on how many people actually think that it's safe to go out, like that'll be interesting to see. Unless people just don't care and they're like, "Hey, it's Wrigley, let's go party, let's get drunk, let's mask." Like, you know what I mean? Like that's probably what's gonna happen.
That's exactly what's gonna happen. Kat and Becky are not gonna wear their mask, and everyone's gonna want to go and everything. Okay.
And you know that this group of people are decision challenged, so you know they're about to run their ass into the stadium. Like, yes, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, you did bring up a good point though. The Major League Baseball, they have talked, or the Cubs and Sox have talked about having fans in the stands. How much or what the capacity is going to be. We're going to figure out how that's going to play out. So that is a topic that's been talked about. That is on the table. So we're going to see how that because they're losing tons of millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
So they want to recoup some. They want to stop the bleeding a little bit. So we're going to see how it is. It's going to be a final call. I think Major League Baseball is going to have the final say. Well, I don't know.
I'll tell you what's also interesting is that this couldn't be a worse situation for the Cubs, not only for the fact of not filling the stadium, but for the fact that this was a year they launched the Marquee Network. And all of a sudden, there's no baseball. I'm not even sure what they're streaming on it right now. Maybe past seasons,
baseball games,
old games. But part of obviously
that's exactly what they're streaming. Is old Cubs games. Okay, they're TV shows that they created, which I don't really care for. But I mean, that's all they're showing right now is old Cubs games and TV shows.
This wasn't the ideal, obviously, scenario for them to have to be in with launching that network, which kind of had a lot of different hurdles to go through in order to be able to even just be on platforms to be aired. So trust me, for them, they're looking to recoup in some way.
Yeah, and they still haven't gotten the deal done with Comcast. So if they don't get the deal done with Comcast
is in their feelings. That's why. How
Comcast got to buy Shorty Curlings. Comcast got to buy
Shorty Curlings. Like, you couldn't stay with our sports station, and you want us to carry your sports station? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Let me think on that.
That's a lot of egg on your face.
It's a lot of egg on your face.
Because it's going to be like the Dodgers a couple of years ago when they had their own service, and 90% of Dodger fans in Southern California couldn't watch the Dodgers at home.
You know what? It was exactly the same feeling that Sox fans had back when they moved to SportsVision. Remember that? And took it off regular TV.
SportsVision on TV, yeah.
And tons of people couldn't watch the games. And it was like, what are you doing? Because that was like, when cable was kind of the new thing. It was like you were privileged. I mean, look, people were lucky to have color TVs or remotes, and now you going with cable. So it was.
Let's not get it twisted. Mugs on public aid who are paying for their Comcast for their SportsVision. They had their sports.
Well, we know there's often a misappropriation for those funds for lots of things. So with that being said, but no, I mean, this is a very similar situation, and Cub fans will know what it feels like to not have access, immediately, obviously, to the programming. So I'll be curious to see how that wrinkle works out once this gets going.
Moving on, next top of the morning topic. Vinsanity has retired. Vince Carter, after 22 seasons in the NBA, and everybody and their mama has decided to hang it up. Vince Carter was the he was one of the guys that I just loved. He was another guy out of North Carolina. They called Baby Jordan.
Half man, half amazing was his initial, what they called him when he came into the NBA. Half man, half amazing. And
then his new nickname became Vinsanity. I mean, he was a guy who he won the dunk contest. He was a guy who didn't care who you were. He was dunking on you. And he was so. And it wasn't just his dunking ability. He was. I mean, you don't stay in the league for 22 years if you don't have if you just dunk. There's a lot of other skill set that he had, and so you know what? It was great watching him for the last 22 years. Do you realize, he was the last person drafted in the 90s that's in the NBA. Everybody else was in the NBA right in 2000 or later.
Well, here's my thing about, it isn't like we're talking about 22 pivotal years. I mean, let's be honest, the latter half of his time in the NBA wasn't necessarily like he was putting up big numbers. I mean, we weren't wowed. I mean, he was still in the league, but it wasn't like he was an impact player in the league. Let's just be honest. He was still collected a check. He was still, he could still do some things, but he wasn't playing at that level that he was playing when he was, obviously came into the league. That had diminished greatly. So the fact that he was able to stay so long and to convince someone to pay him, that within itself to me is interesting. But, I'm glad he decided, like, look, my body can't do this anymore. And I guarantee you all this time he's had off in between has probably shown him that bounce back is way harder than it's ever been for him. So it would make sense at this point. Like, just call it quits. It's done. It's over. Just be done. Okay, Vince? Appreciate it.
He's the first NBA player to appear in 4 different decades. He's played in 1,541 games behind only the Chief, Robert Parrish, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And his long list of teams that he's played for include, he started with the Raptors, then played for the Nets, Magic, Suns, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Kings before his final 2 seasons with the Atlanta Hawks. I thought that was pretty cool. Vinsanity, we loved him in the dunk contest. We loved his
back in the day.
High flying ability. Awesome.
Back in the day. But, he just kind of became a journeyman towards the mid to end of his career. And it wasn't like he was making stops where he was an impact player. So, for instance, it wasn't like a team that was maybe on the bubble or could use an extra person was going out to get Vince Carter. It wasn't like, Golden State or anybody was like, hey, I didn't hear LeBron be like, hey, Vince Carter's still in the league. Let's get him on the Lakers. No. I'm not trying to diminish it. I just think really he was in the league way too long.
If I could add
down on a Friday, way to go, Maya.
If I could add one thing to that, though,
his money.
Ching ching.
If I could add one thing, he became a better facilitator and a better shooter later in his career, which I thought he would have been a key bench player on a team that was contending. You know what I mean? But he just seemed to never get to a team that was contending. until you know what I mean. So it's kind of shitty how he went out, in my opinion. But I felt like if he would have found himself on a Laker team, on a decent Laker team, on a Celtics team or something like that, back in back 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
I think would have been all right. Yeah, but we're talking
10 years ago.
We're talking about a career. Like the last couple of years, yeah, whatever. You could just get a paycheck and go home.
He's like,
but like 10 years ago, he was at that journeyman point.
10 years ago. But that's the problem is like he's like the Walmart greeter. It's like that old person that you just won't give a job to. So you give it to somebody elderly. I mean, you keep them involved. You keep them gainfully employed. You keep them.
You have your receipt.
They're socialized. That's kind of what Vince Carter was like. So I mean. But hey, guess what? This means there's probably going to be a debut in the Big Three next year because he probably should still be up for that. What? Yeah. No, for real. If he's not in shape to still play at the NBA level, I can't imagine why he wouldn't be in the Big Three. Now that's where that's where he was supposed to be 2 or 3 years ago.
Maya is ruthless. Is it Petty Friday? I didn't get the memo.
Okay. Let's be honest. Am I wrong in what I'm saying? Am I wrong in what I'm saying?
No, I never said you were.
Because you're wrong, just because you're not wrong doesn't mean it's not petty.
See, that's why people. You know what? Here's the thing. This is why people lie because the truth hurts. This is why people lie all the time because they're afraid to say what the truth really is. And the truth is, Vince Carter should have retired like 8, 9, 10 years ago. So happy retirement. You can go right to Florida.
You know what? If you had that opportunity, Maya, would you take that opportunity to get an NBA paycheck?
Hell no.
You want to take that chance to get an NBA paycheck?
First of all, the kind of money that Vince Carter had made up to 10 years ago, he couldn't be breaking the bank with any team right now. He can't be making more than a couple $1 million. He's made so much more money in his career. I better never hear a story about Vince Carter being broke. You know what? He said, if I'm going back to Florida, it's going to be on early retirement because that's what I do. That's it. I'm sorry. He should have been off the league a long time ago.
Listen, we got to take a break on that one. Debbie Downer. I'm telling you, it's Maya's on a roll today, boy. Whew.
Okay.
She's on a roll. Anyway, we got to take a quick break. And on the other side of the break, we have our boy, good friend of the program, Ron Luce, calling in. We're going to talk a little Hall of Fame hockey, Blackhawks hockey. So don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
In his final 2 seasons at Dallas Baptist, the 6'8" Little struck out 86 and 44 in the third innings over 2 seasons at San Jacinto College North. Moreno was a prep star at Panther Creek High School in North Carolina. The PGA Tour announced it will implement stricter COVID-19 protocols after 3 positive cases were confirmed prior to this weekend's Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut. Brooks Koepka among a group of 5 players who had withdrawn from the event after his caddy was among the positive tests. Blue Emu promises no chill, no burn, no odor, just what you need to suit tired muscles and joints. The Sports Flash is driven by G Truck Standards 1330-95.9 The Zone.
Rusty Wallace here from Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief. This pain cream is the official pain cream of NASCAR for a reason. It works fast, and you won't stink. There's no messy, greasy, nasty feel or any stinging or burning here. This is pure pain relief. Don't run your engine on Octane 89. Get the good stuff. Meet me and Victory Lane. Blue Emu works fast, and you won't stink.
Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
Hey, say that bee. It's National Pollinator Week.
Did you know pollinators are more than just honeybees? Did you know 1 in 3 bites of food is made possible by pollinators? That's why Prairie View A&M Cooperative Extension is prepping for pollinators this week. Identify your backyard pollinators, take photos, and plant flowers to help them thrive. Visit agnearme.com. That's agnearme.com to download our pollinator prep guide today. Let's get prepping for National Pollinator Week.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. Maya, I'm fired up. You got any big plans this weekend? 90 degrees? You working?
No, for a change, I actually don't.
Shut the front door.
I know, right. I was like, geez, I'm not. It's nice. I don't. I mean, I think hopefully, I'm going to try to get a bike ride in because, like, the rain kind of messes up the trails I like to use. So I'm going to try to get a bike ride in, something like that. I'm old.
They got a Colombian Fest this weekend. I'm just
is it virtual?
No.
I'm not going to that.
Oh, okay.
No. People think I'm joking. I'm limiting my interaction with people. I'm not trying to do that. So no, if it's not virtual,
like a little while, yeah. I have to see Carmen and Ro, see them for a little bit, have a beer.
Maybe. Where is this at?
Right by Curie, right by Archer, between Pulaski and Cicero.
Maybe. I mean, I just got a new mask. That makes me look like Mortal Kombat. I'm kind of excited about it. So maybe I'll wear it.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'll give you the deets when we're done.
All right.
Our first guest, good friend of the program. He writes. He's a writer and podcaster for the On Tap Sportsnet. He's here to talk a little bit about Hall of Fame hockey, some Blackhawk hockey, and I like it, guys. You can find him on Twitter at RNLD Loose. Guys, welcome back to Shawn and Maya. Ron Loose. Ron, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, Shawn. I'm good, Maya. How you guys doing?
Wonderful. Oh, look, you got the beard all trimmed. You just come out of the barber or something, dude?
I do this. This is all on my own. I do all this by myself.
Ooh, all
did you master this during quarantine? You had time to work on it?
I've had this beard now for probably about 3.5 years. So I've mastered it over the.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got it.
It's manicured. It looks like you just came out of the shop.
It does.
I've had it for a while. So.
Okay. All right.
Well, a couple more Blackhawks went into the Hall of Fame, and I was pretty excited about it. Hossa, that's a no-brainer. And Hossa was the man in the title runs. I mean, we talked about it earlier. How many times did you see him getting checked on the left side, and he's still stick handling the puck with his right hand only? Making a pass, attempting a shot. This guy was awesome. He's one of the best two-way players in the history of not just the Blackhawks. Your thoughts on Hossa getting in on the first ballot?
I mean, I think it's awesome. Pretty straightforward in that sense. But there was a lot of people that weren't sure he was going to be a first ballot. I mean, I think everybody agreed that he's a Hall of Famer, and every Chicago Blackhawks fan will tell you that he is a Hall of Famer. But for him to go in on the first try, I think it just really showed that despite not having any individual awards, because quite frankly, a winger in the NHL more often than not is never going to win the Selke Award for Best Defensive Forward. It's just the name of the game because centers always win the award. I mean, there was a couple of years where Hossa arguably could have won the Selke. So I think the voters knew that. And, despite the lack of personal accomplishments, I mean, 1,134 points in 1,300 games is no joke. So, in 3 Stanley Cups, obviously 5 Stanley Cup appearances, because obviously he went to 3 straight, finally winning the 3rd one in 2010 with the Hawks. So, well-deserved, and for it to happen on the first ballot makes it that much cooler, I'm sure, for him and for Blackhawks fans everywhere.
How crazy was that? Kevin Durant gets a lot of flack for jumping team to team, but Hossa, Maya mentioned earlier, Haas didn't get any flack from going to Detroit to Pittsburgh to the Hawks. Finally winning it with the Hawks in 2010. Yeah,
well, it was a little bit of a different circumstance because a lot of people don't remember he got traded to Pittsburgh. He didn't have that choice.
True.
When he started with Ottawa, he was a part of the Danny Heatley trade that ultimately ended up in Atlanta, teaming him up with Ilya Kovalchuk at that time. And then mid-season, he was a trade deadline acquisition for the Pens for that first Cup run. Had the chance to go sign. He signed 1 year in Detroit just to see what would happen, and then had the opportunity to sign long-term, and he signed that big 12-year contract, which now is extinct in the current day NHL. But, back then guys were signing 12 and 13-year contracts like Duncan Keith got too. So, it's a little crazy how that happened for him. I mean, it's just the perfect time, and he goes to Pittsburgh. They make that Cup run, and then he's like, well, Detroit's still a good team, and I'll try signing there for a year. And then everything worked out, obviously, when Marty Havlat's money fell off the books, the Hawks were able to bring him in.
How much better do you think he would have been had he just focused on offense? Because he was a phenomenal two-way player. How much more potent would he have been had he just focused on offense?
That's a great question. I mean, even in many seasons where he focused on both. I mean, he was still putting up over 75 points a season when he was healthy. I think it was the 2014-15 run, I think. He led the team, I think, with 77 points that year. I know there was one year he led the team in points. So, yeah, I mean, he had a couple 100-point seasons back in the day with the Atlanta Thrashers. So he's always been a potent offensive player. But I agree. If he didn't focus on the defensive side, I mean, 80 to 85 points a year probably would have been routine for him. I mean, he was usually a 60 to 70 point guy, especially later on in his career. But yeah, I mean, he was the true testament to, what players nowadays deem a proper two-way forward. I mean, he did it all. Like you said, he was so strong on the puck. You couldn't get him off the puck. He could stick handle with one hand and keep you away with the other. He was the best back checker. I mean, I think still to this day, and, you probably could ask Brandon Saad, but I think a big reason why Brandon Saad was so good so young is because he got to play opposite Marian Hossa and learn from Marian Hossa.
Yes.
He really molded his game around, Marian Hossa's style. So, and even Jonathan Toews, obviously he's a center and he was a little more polished as a two-way forward already. But as soon as Hoss came, even, Toews' defensive abilities went to the next level. So, he's one of those rare talents that, even when he's not on the ice, you can see the impact he has on the other players because, I mean, hell, I think a lot of people even attribute to Patrick Kane the fact that he plays defense now to Marian Hossa. So, 81's going to be hanging in the rafters at the United Center someday. There's no question about that. And hopefully, by then the world will be back to semi-normalcy and we can all be in the stands to watch it happen. But it's well deserved for Hoss. And yeah, I mean, I know I rambled there a little bit, but to answer your question, if he was just an offensive player, 100 points a year would have been attainable for him.
Guys, we're joined by Ron Luce from the OnTap Sports Network, talking a little Blackhawks hockey right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
Ron, you said one of the things that I said when we talked about it in the beginning of the show is that he was an instant impact, not just on the ice, but on the rest of the team. You saw an instant shift when he got here. And I also said when he left, you also saw what I felt was an instant shift the opposite way. I said, so his impact on the Blackhawks to me was on the ice, it was off the ice, and you could notably see the difference in his presence when he was not there. So absolutely everything that wasn't rambling. That's just a fact. It's a truth that he was a huge development piece, which I did mention that as my note when I noted that, but you're right. A lot of key players learned a lot from him in the time that he was there.
Absolutely. And I think, just kind of add to your point, I mean, he signed at the perfect time for this club, right? Because, they were that young and up and coming team in the league. They didn't have a ton of guys over the age of 30. I think at that time, the only guys on the roster that might've been over the age of 30 were, honestly, Brent Sopel might've been the only one. I mean, they were a super, super young team at that time. And, for him to come in, I saw a couple comments yesterday from Chris Versteeg, who just, he said as soon as he stepped on the ice for that first game, obviously he didn't start that first season until November because he was coming back from a off-season surgery, I believe. So he only played about 50-something games that year. But, I mean, they said it, I think his first game back, I think he had 2 goals against San Jose, or it was one of his first games back. And they just said, they're like, this is the epitome of a true professional. He came in and, he was that mature presence in a team full of really young, exciting players. And so I think it was a perfect storm, really. I mean, I still think to this day, I think you can make a case for a John Lester. I think you can make a case, eventually for some of these White Sox signings that they've made. But to this day, I think Marian Hossa is the best Chicago free agent signing ever. And I think it's pretty hard to argue against that. So, yeah, he's just incredible. And then, just to add on to it too, I mean, that team, I mean, they were losing Marty Havlat, who the year before led the team in points. And they're like, oh, what are we going to do? And then, you're able to bring in arguably one of the greatest European forwards to ever play the game, and the rest is history. So
that's what we do. Oh, that's what they do.
Yeah. He just found him on the market, and they're like, oh, hey, you want to come play with this really exciting young team we got here in Chicago? But yeah, and then Maya, to your other point, when he left, I mean, on the forward side, you saw the impact that was lost when he left. And then even, it was the perfect storm too, because it was right around the same time that Panarin and Hjalmarsson were both traded. So it was this perfect storm of one off season, you lose 3 impact players on that team, that took you to a playoff run the year before. So, It was tough. I remember I can actually tell you where I was the day that the Marion Hossa news broke that he wasn't going to play anymore, because it was that impactful. As a hockey fan in Chicago, I was just like, wow. I was in that very back seat on the L where you can look out the back and see the tracks behind you. I was in that seat. I remember I was kicked up, had my feet, I'm scrolling through my phone, going to work, and then I read that, and I kind of just you have that moment of solidarity where you're just like,
damn,
I'm never going to watch this guy play a game. And again, it's like he almost didn't get the proper send off as a player because of that. And I think that if I had one regret about Marion Hossa's career as a fan, it's that he didn't get that like Derek Jeter-esque farewell season. Because I at least from the Chicago faithful, he would have, every game would have been a celebration of his career in that last season. It didn't matter if, he put up 80 points or 30 points. I mean, everybody would have still been 81 would have started every game at the United Center just to hear that roar and Gene Honda announce his name every home game. So unfortunately that didn't happen. And, that just, I think that added to the pain of that off season of losing, 3 staples on the team.
So, the other guy who was inducted as well as some of our younger fans might not know who he was. But this guy was a phenomenal player, Doug Wilson, 3-time All-Star, won the Norris Trophy in '72, had a laser, fire the lasers, had a laser for a slap shot. I was telling the technology for goalie padding was nowhere near what it is today, and his slap shot would hold true in today's game, especially with the fiberglass sticks and everything. And he getting hit by a slap shot in the chest would be like getting shot with a rubber bullet. It would some of the goalies, they would have bruises on their person after a game with the Hawks. This guy was Aussie, was amazing, and I was fortunate enough I got to watch him play when I was an Andy Frayne Usher back then. So it was good to see him play back then. And he has 827 career points, and 15th all time amongst defensemen. So another and a fan favorite. People loved him here in Chicago. I remember loving this guy. He was one of the guys with he's one of the throwbacks. He didn't wear a helmet. He didn't wear the helmet back in the day.
Well, one of the last dudes to not wear a helmet anymore because of the grandfather rule. Yeah, I mean, he was an incredible player. It's funny that you mentioned, his slap shot. Actually, my dad, so my grandfather, his company had season tickets for a long time in the late 70s and 80s. And my dad went to a game when he was younger, and he still talks about it to this day. He remembers going to a game and Doug Wilson's shot knocked a goalie unconscious because it was that hard. It hit him in the mask, and he blacked out momentarily, and they had to check him for a concussion. I think the goalie actually came out of the game. I mean, he was. I mean, him and Al McInnes were kind of the first two guys with that crazy, and at least more in today's day and age of hockey, right? Like the Gretzky years. Like they were the first two that were really the slap shot kings, the Webbers and the Charas of today. And, and obviously before that, you guys had guys like Bobby Hall, who had an incredible slap shot. His brother, Dennis Hall, had an incredible slap shot. Obviously his son had an incredible slap shot as well. And Brett, but I mean, yeah, Doug Wilson was a special player, and, he got to play 14 of his 16 years in the league with the Hawks, which, not a lot of guys get to spend that long of their career with teams anymore.
I wonder if, because even some members of the Hall of Fame committee for the NHL, I think it was Brian Burke who made the comment that this was really 2 decades too late. Like he really should have been inducted so much earlier than what he was, taking 24 years. And what I think is interesting is I wonder, is it because he was on the team at a time when they just weren't as demonstrative as we saw in seasons past? Because, you can be lost in translation when you're on a team that isn't as good. Or you're kind of okay. See, you told me I was being petty on Friday. I was trying to be nice, but you're right. So when you're on teams that suck, sometimes your talent gets overlooked. And I wonder if that's part of it, is that he wasn't always on some great Blackhawk teams, and hence his talent kind of got absorbed by that or overlooked.
It could have been. I think another thing too is just a lot of people, realize that the Hall of Fame class that goes in every year is not a huge Hall of Fame class. They try to limit the numbers, and sometimes it's just a numbers game. If you're up one year and you're looking at the list and you're like, oh, wow, okay, I'm one of the top guys kind of on this list now, maybe I'll get in, maybe all of a sudden a Wayne Gretzky retires and, you start lining it up and you look and you're like, oh, well, not going in that year because he's going to get it over me. I mean, I think it could have been one of those cases too for him where just, he kind of he was always in the conversation, but they just didn't have enough spots to get him in. So it's good that he finally got in, because I agree, he was well overdue. He was an incredible player. One of the true great offensive defensemen of, the 1980s, right up there with guys like Paul Coffey and others. So to see, two Hawks get into the Hall of Fame, and really, I mean, Marian Hossa will be remembered as a Hawk. He spent the most length of time in his career in Chicago. I think it was by 1 year too that he beat his tenure in Ottawa. But so for two, all-time great Blackhawks to make the Hall of Fame in this crazy 2020 year, it was. I think it was even that much more special for fans that are missing hockey and get to see that happen. Given the circumstances of the pandemic world that we're living in right now.
Guys, we're joined by Ron Luce from the On Tap Sports Net, talking a little Blackhawks hockey right here. We got him for another moment or so on SportsZone Chicago. Talk to me. Go ahead, Maya. Finish it.
I would say let's kind of shift to talking a bit about the season, whatever, and the sanctuary city thing. What is hockey going to look like? I mean, it's gone. It's summer, which we know how ice is during the summertime, trying to make this work. What do you think this is going to look like when we, talk about the Blackhawks have maybe inched their way into this when we know they shouldn't be there? That's just my opinion. But what's your thought? With you. I'm like, this is purely like talk about 2020, like tossing up coins for everybody on this one. So what do you think this looks like? What's their chances moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, I agree with you. They should not be there. They definitely lucked out in a numbers game. They were the last team to get in this Western Conference kind of play-in round.
Come on.
Yeah, and but I think it'll be interesting. I think a lot of people, the first thing that's going to jump off the page, especially in this first play-in round, is goaltending is not going to be up to par because these guys are going to be rusty. Even defense, I mean, systems are going to be rusty. Everything's going to be rusty. So the truly elite players are going to shine, and you're going to see a lot of games that end in 8-7 type scores. I think that's going to happen. Or it's going to be the complete opposite. Or it's going to be a lot of 1-0, 2-1 type games. I mean, it's these guys are either going to be your superstars are going to truly, truly shine, or they're going to be rusty too, and it's going to be, I don't want to call it boring hockey, but it's not going to be nearly as exciting just because these guys have had so many months off, frankly. But I would expect Patrick Kane to be a huge player in the series just because he's Kane, and he's probably gonna take games over. But I would also say the same about guys like Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid for Edmonton. Especially
they're not bad. They're not bad.
No, they're not too bad. They were just 1 and 2 in the points for the season this year. Draisaitl had over 100 points, and I think McDavid had 90 something, despite missing 20 games. No big deal. But those guys are going to really showcase. So that's going to be the key: is can you minimize, because you're not going to slow down literally the fastest player in the NHL, and Connor McDavid. So can you minimize his opportunities to really get to those high danger areas in front of Corey? And if that ends up being the case, can Kane probably have to carry this team? I mean, realistically, I would expect guys like Kubalik, and I expect Taves to step up. Hopefully I call them the twins, Strome and DeBrincat, step up, but really, I mean, Patrick Kane's going to be the guy that, every night he's going to need 3 ice bags on his back because he's going to be carrying this team. So, it'll be interesting hockey. I think it's going to be one of two extremes. I really think that it's going to be either, hey, it's going to be 0-1, 2-1 type games, or holy smokes, it's 10-9 and there's 15 minutes left in the third period, guys. Let's play some defense here. It's going to be one of the two extremes. So I'm excited to see what happens when play is scheduled to resume here at the end of July. So
yes.
Yeah, I'm concerned because our defense has not been good the last couple of years. So
hey, thankfully, Calvin DeHaan's coming back. He's been scheduled. He's going to be a huge addition because I'm willing to bet that him and Connor Murphy are going to be paired up as that second pair, and they're going to be that shutdown pair. They're going to have to be. So I would expect every opportunity Colleton has. He sees 97 and 29 jump over the boards for Edmonton. 44 and 5 are jumping over the boards for Chicago.
Hey guys, that's Ron Luce from the On Tap Sports Net. Hey buddy, thanks for your time, man. We appreciate it. But do me a favor, let everyone know where they can find you and your work online.
Yeah, you can find me. I'm on Twitter. It's probably where I'm the most active. It's RNLD Luce, which is, as you can see on the little screen at the bottom, LUCE. You can also find all my work at ontapsportsnet.com. Blackhawks, Cubs. I dabble in Bears every once in a while because I did play football. That was my first love. And then you can also find some of my work over at www.the-rink.com.
The
I
Rink.
still do.
Okay.
Yes, I do Chicago Wolves coverage for them right now over there. So yeah, so I'm literally everywhere. But no, thanks again to you guys. It's always good to come on and get to talk to you guys, especially now when there's slowly sports are starting to come back. So but thanks again for having me.
You're going to be in heaven. You got the Blackhawks in the playoffs. You got your Cubs starting up in July. I'm
gonna be more busy in the months of July and August than I have been the entire year combined with coverage. So it's gonna be wild, but I'm excited for it. I'm here for it.
Hey, great stuff, Papa. We appreciate it, man. We'll reach out again soon. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Great.
All right, now, guys. That was Ron Luce from the On Tap Sports Net. He's always, man. I love talking to him. He's so passionate about covering his Cubs and the Blackhawks. And I love when we get people passionate. It's not just a job. Like, okay, it's great. No, he's passionate about hockey and about his Cubs. So it's
And the thing I appreciate about Ron is that he's very he's objective. He doesn't like just, because granted, most people who cover things tend to be a fan, especially of a certain team. But I always feel he keeps things in perspective, and I think that's important. So his insight is always good. Always good to have him as a guest.
This is it's a cool deal for the Blackhawks, and I can't wait until Marian Hossa, they bring him back for his induction. When they do hang up number 81 in the rafters at the house that Mike built, I think that's going to be insane. They can't definitely. It's got to be after the world gets back to normal and everybody is allowed to get back and be in full capacity, because he needs a send off. He needs a send off. We talked about his. He made an announcement after the season, or right before the season, that he wasn't playing. He didn't get that love. He didn't get the farewell tour. He didn't get the ovation. He didn't get none of that.
Because it was medical related, and you were thinking maybe he might. It was a soft retirement. It wasn't like set in stone. You're right. So his exit, trust me, was not like it would have been had he just said And when he did finally say it, other things were going on. So I guarantee you that the Blackhawks will make up for this. They will make up for this.
Oh yeah, and the fans. If you ever thought I would love to be. I can't wait to try and get to that game, because that might be one of the loudest that you'll ever hear the United Center. And I want to try and compare it to when I used to work at the old barn across the street, because that place was insane.
I don't know. So I was there when Coach Q came back after obviously going to Florida to coach. Okay, and it was loud. He actually looked a little teary, which was interesting. He's all stoic, and he just, you could tell he was really moved by how. Yeah, he was holding it back. He was probably cursing in French. I'm sure he was cursing in French big time. I got that, But it was loud when they announced him, seriously, and it was like people were waiting for it, and they kind of threw it towards the middle, not like in the beginning like you thought they might do, but people were ready. So they were. It was loud. So I can imagine that with Jose, it will be equally. It will be very loud for him as well.
What's crazy? So when I was an antifreeze usher back in the day, they were playing the Edmonton Oilers, who they were playing in the playoffs, and Savard had this goal, and unfortunately Gretzky didn't play. God, I was so mad, because a good buddy of mine worked at Players Gate. It's 3.5, and at that point I had already used my St. Rita privilege, and I got that. My station was on the main floor for Bulls games and Hawks games, so I check in with my supervisor, and I'd go hang out at gate 3.5 with my buddy Jay Yusta. Shout out to Jay Yusta for letting a nice little sophomore, junior, for hang out with him. Anyway, so that's why I got to see all the guys come in. I mean, you name it, all the stars from the late 80s. I got basketball and hockey. I got to see them. And so and I was a big hockey fan. So when they walked in, that day, I think I read in the paper that that Wayne Gretzky wasn't playing. I was so pissed. I loved Gretzky, but I got to see all the other guys come in. We're talking Grant Fuhr. We're talking Marty McSorley. We're talking another Mark Messier. All those guys walk in.
You saw everybody then?
Everybody, because my guy his station was gate 3.5, the Players Gate. Mm-hmm. So I would just go stand by him, and literally they're like walking in front of me. You name it, from basketball and hockey in the late 80s. See everybody. It was phenomenal. Nice. So that game, Dennis Savard, and I this is on YouTube. He goes around all 5 Oilers. He goes around all 5 Oilers, does a spinorama, and beats Grant Fuhr. I think he went went where Mama puts the peanut butter in the top shelf, and that place, it was the loudest place that I had ever been in my entire life. I was screaming because I was screaming, and
I
couldn't hear myself. I could not hear myself scream.
That's when you know something's loud. When you can't hear your own self screaming, that's loud. Okay.
Insane. So that's why I can't wait till Hossa comes back, because that place is gonna erupt. And I just want to compare because I remember that it was just literally just like, because I couldn't hear. I wanted to hear me, and I couldn't hear me. Just like this.
It was like what?
Just like that.
No,
but yeah, so he's definitely going to be in the rafters, and without him, we don't get the 3 cups, and he was just a huge part. You talk about timing is everything. Remember, we've talked about Jake Arrieta. Timing is everything. You know, 1 year for a big contract. Well, you know what? He was a free agent, and he came around at the right time for the Blackhawks. That stable force, that veteran that they needed, with a whole bunch of young, talented guys. They just needed one guy to kind of show them the way how to be professionals and get them to that point, because they hadn't been to the Stanley Cup Finals, that group of players, and he had been to the last 2. Great hats off to the GM for getting him there, and it was just one of the best things. I can argue, because I'm not a Cub fan, but I can definitely argue that's the best free agent signing that the Chicago has made.
No, it is. It's the best that Chicago has ever made. John Lester or not, Marian Hossa tops them all.
Yeah, he brought three cups with him, so yeah, that's cool. Well, listen, guys, we gotta
that's true. That's true.
We gotta take a quick break, because on the other side of the break, we have a new guest coming up, and I'm excited to talk to her. We're gonna talk to Beth Mishler-Elmore, talk a little Bears football right over your right shoulder, Ivan. Nice. So don't go anywhere, folks. Bear Talk coming up next right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
Quicken Loans presents the Sports Flash, driven by Jeep on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The Cubs have finalized minor league deals with 3 more draft picks, including second-round selection Earl Caraway. Left-hander Luke Little and right-hander Corn Moreno also signed their deals. Little was selected in the 4th round, Moreno went in the 5th. The Cubs announced first-round pick Ed Howard's deal on Monday. As far as the latest signees, the 21-year-old Caraway went 6-2 with 11 saves and a 2.47 ERA in his final 2 seasons at Dallas Baptist. The 6'8" Little struck out 86 in 44 in the 3rd innings over 2 seasons at San Jacinto College North. Moreno was a prep star at Panther Creek High School in North Carolina. The PGA Tour announced it will implement stricter COVID-19 protocols after 3 positive cases were confirmed prior to this weekend's Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut. Brooks Koepka among a group of 5 players who had withdrawn from the event after his caddy was among the positive tests. Blue Emu promises no chill, no burn, no odor, just what you need to soothe tired muscles and joints. The Sports Flash is driven by Gene Chuck Sanders, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
Rusty Wallace here for Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief. This pain cream is the official pain cream of NASCAR for a reason. It works fast, and you won't stink. There's no messy, greasy, nasty feel or any stinging or burning here. This is pure pain relief. Don't run your engine on Octane 89. Get the good stuff. Meet me in Victory Lane. Blue Emu works fast, and you won't stink.
Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
Hey, say that bee. It's National Pollinator Week.
Did you know pollinators are more than just honeybees? Did you know 1 in 3 bites of food is made possible by pollinators? That's why Prairie View A&M Cooperative Extension is prepping for pollinators this week. Identify your backyard pollinators, take photos, and plant flowers to help them thrive. Visit agnearme.com. That's agnearme.com to download our pollinator prep guide today. Let's get prepping for National Pollinator Week.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. Maya, I'm fired up, man. I am fired the freak up. Talk Bears. The Bears have decided the training camp has been set to start on July 28th, a couple of days after my birthday. Oh, my birthday. It's not going to be the big one. That's next year. But so now that it's set, I am excited that you know what? So it takes the sting out of Bourbonnais, because we wouldn't have been able to go to Bourbonnais anyway. All right, they wouldn't have practice.
Look, it had no sting for me. So I was like,
yeah, I know.
Shawn, I was like, you were overthinking it. You were putting your feelings in it. And I was like, it's a business. They could have done it better, but this did kind of get them off the hook.
It did. So I'm not as upset about it. I don't want to go on a beating up spree, just beating the hell out of people. So I'm good. I'm good.
I mean, what you mean is you don't want to whine about it, and it's okay. It's Friday.
Yeah, and it seems you set the tone for Petty Friday, so I figured I'd just join in. Anyway, we got a new guest coming up. We got a new guest. I'm excited to talk to her. She's a Chicago Bears writer for Heavy.com. You can find her on Twitter at Beth Mishler Elmo. I was like Elmo, but it's because her last name is Elmore. So, guys, let's welcome Shawn and Maya for the first time. Beth Mishler Elmore.
Good to be here.
Beth, how we doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. Anytime we get to talk football, I am excited.
Yes, he is. That's his thing. He likes to talk football. So, yeah, get ready.
I don't blame him. I feel like any time to talk about Bears is the right time. That's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, there we go.
In college, they used to call the football players, they called us fatheads, and they call us, so we appreciate it. Fat necks. I'm sorry, not fathead. Fat necks.
Okay.
And meatballs, they call us. Because whenever they had meatballs in the cafeteria, we would always usually eat them all because we're big guys. So it's a term of endearment now. So, I'm still fat neck and a meatball. So anytime Bears, it's on. So you wrote a couple of articles that I was reading on Heavy.com, a couple of short articles, and let's talk about them. Going into this season, you talked about is Mitchell Trubisky keeping Anthony Miller from breaking out? Anthony Miller is a guy that I was really excited about, talking about his Memphis grind and, how he had to work for everything because he wasn't very highly touted coming out of high school. Memphis wasn't his last ditch effort. He finally got a scholarship from Memphis, so he stayed home. So it was that's for how he got to play there. And we're expecting big things from him, but he really hasn't performed to the level that we thought. He had some good flashes, but there was not what we were hoping to see. Why do you think that was in your article?
Well, I think part of it, you can't really ignore the 2 consecutive years he's had shoulder surgery on his left shoulder, right? I mean, that has to have affected his play. But my article was actually, I had read an article by, I want to get his name right, Benjamin Solak from the Draft Network. And he had basically broke down a lot of plays that Anthony Miller had where he would have been better assisted and probably would have made the play if he would have had a more capable quarterback and or a veteran who was more able to read defenses and understand coverages. And I think part of the problem is that for Mitch, he expects everything to be like practice. And so in a game, he executes just like how he would in practice. And in a couple of the plays in the article that I referenced, Miller had to adjust his route. Maybe in practice he got on the outside of his defender, and in the game he got on the inside. And instead of making an adjustment in game, Mitch basically throws the ball away. And he's got several examples from last year, including games against the Saints and the Rams, in which Miller was open and he clearly was free and he had got separation and he had beat his man, and Mitch still threw the ball into no man's land. And so there are several instances where I think had he had someone like, Drew Brees or even I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he might have had a much better year. And it's interesting because he started to come alive in the second part of 2019. He had about as many yards and catches in a 4-game span last year that he did his entire rookie year. And so it's there. It's just a matter of we haven't seen him with consistent quarterback play. And I think there was some issues with coaching and play calling as well that might have hurt him too.
Mitch there's an issue at quarterback again. So we have a quarterback controversy. Give me your thoughts. Who's the guy? Okay, they brought in Nick Foles, gave him, with that big contract, but they refused to pick up Mitch Trubisky's 5th-year option. That's extremely telling. Your thoughts? Who actually takes now under center week 1?
Week 1, I think it's going to be Mitch. I don't know that the same thing is going to be true week 5, 6, 7 down the line. The only way Mitch is the starter at the end of the year is if Mitch becomes the player that everybody hoped Mitch could become, in my opinion. I don't think anybody really dislikes Mitch the person. there's become this huge group of Bears fans that if you critique his play, you're critiquing him, and that's just not the case. I think he's a great runner. He's got great ability, but he's also, his decision making is questionable at best. And you just kind of, sometimes you're watching him and you're just, you're white knuckling it. You're just hoping that he makes a play, and you're hoping that it comes through, and you're hoping something happens, and he throws it away, or he throws it away on 4th down, and you just you got to see it consistently. And if and it's a huge if, but if he can put it all together and figure out how to read defenses and figure out how to be more accurate, he'll be the guy. But I feel like it'll be Foles, because I think Mitch, I think he's going to be pretty easily rattled too. I think the first couple of mistakes he makes, it's just,
that's heavy, no pun intended.
I like it.
But what's interesting to me is, and you're right, I feel like what you're saying is it's Mitch's job to lose. And honestly, he's under a lot of stress when he walks on the field, if he doesn't get this right, that there is a person behind him who won the team, has faith in, and who can get the job done. So with that being said, is there anything that the Bears have not done from an offensive standpoint to help Mitch be successful going into this season?
Sure. I think you look at a lot of Matt Nagy's play calling last year. He was heavily criticized, and he remains, I think, very much watched, because he did not, I think, in a lot of ways, play and call plays to suit the strengths of his players. David Montgomery is a really huge example. There were a couple games where he was just tearing it up, and I think he would have had a lot more than 880-something yards last year if he would have gotten the ball a lot more. And I think the same is true for Mitch. There was one point, and I forget who they had just played, but Mitch kind of sort of called Matt Nagy out after the game, and indirectly, and was just like, well, maybe if I could have, rolled out more, or we call more running plays, I could have got more help, kind of thing. And I think Nagy has to have heard that going into this season. And so I think if Matt Nagy does not have Mitch rolling out more, if he does not have Mitch, getting rid of the ball a lot quicker, if he still has Mitch trying to be the pocket passer that he absolutely is not, the offense isn't doing anything to help him. It's almost like they're kind of shooing him out for the next guy, and that's Nick Foles.
But if that's the case, then unfortunately that's like a catch-22 for Mitch, because if Nagy refuses to make the adjustments to work toward the strengths of Mitch's game, that means next man up, because it's going to look like this. Because I guess here's a question you have to ask yourself as a Bears fan. Do you make the adjustments to work for Mitch, or do you put the guy in the game that can actually execute the playbook according to what the coach wants to do? What is more important? I know what my answer would be, but that comes down to what they have to decide if he's not the right fit. If he's not the right fit because he can't execute the playbook, then to me, we're just going through the motions at this point of letting him start the season.
And I think that's kind of what it is. I think that they feel like they have to at this point. They bet the farm on him. They took him second overall over who, and who could definitely have taken us to a Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. But instead we have Mitch, and I feel like everything surrounding him, they're going through the motions because of that. They've sacrificed a lot for him, and I feel like they think, there's still that minute, that 1% chance, 2% chance that he balls out and becomes Superman. But I think that Ryan Pace is just kind of like, well, we're going to roll him out there and we're going to do it and we're going to try it. But we also have Nick Foles, who's magic in November through January. And so I think he's kind of their trump card for this going through the motions, which I think you're absolutely right.
Guys, we're joined by Beth Mishler-Elmore she is a Bears writer for Heavy.com, talking Bears football right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning. You wrote another article, and this kind of got the hair on my arms to stand up. And you talked about the conference call that Ted Monachino had with that's the Bears linebacker coach had with the media, and he said something to the effect that Khalil Mack has been working out with a purpose, almost with a chip on his shoulder. I cannot tell you how fired up that got me. Because when you get a Khalil Mack, one of the premier pass rushers, if not the premier pass rusher in the NFL today, to be working out with a chip on his shoulder, that means nothing but long days and long evenings, long nights and nightmares for offensive tackles and quarterbacks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the key thing that I took from that was that Monachino said that Khalil was showing up for team Zoom meetings from his weight room as though he never left it. I mean, I think he was only 2 quarterback pressures behind, away from having the same amount as Aaron Donald last year. And he was pretty heavily criticized because when Akeem Hicks went down, I think a lot of people expected Khalil to maybe step up and sort of fill that void, and it just didn't happen. And he didn't get a lot of help either from Leonard Floyd, which is why Floyd's gone and Robert Quinn's there now. That being said, I don't know if Khalil if his workouts are setting a fire under the team or not, but it seems to be spreading throughout the team because a lot of Bears players, and I followed these guys on Instagram for a while now and on Twitter, and a lot of them are now posting workout videos and kind of hype videos and just pictures of them getting ripped that they have not really posted before. And so I don't know if it's like a Khalil Mack effect, but I could certainly see his leadership kind of taking hold of that locker room. And if so, Bears fans have a lot of reasons to be excited because I think him with a chip on his shoulder, you're right. I mean, that's one of the scariest things imaginable. I think he's hearing everything that people have said about, well, maybe he's no good without another, without Akeem Hicks or another really strong presence on the line. And I think we all kind of know that's not true, but I think he's hearing the critics. And I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the latest CBS Sports polls. They're like releasing top 10 cornerbacks and safeties, and have 2 Bears on there, and Khalil's like ranked 8th in the league. And I'm just like, okay, I know he's seeing this, and I know he's using it as motivation because he's not posting a lot of this stuff on social media himself. Right now, he's kind of focused on social awareness and racial injustice, and he wants, awareness brought to the NFL is kind of what he's focusing on his social media pages. But I think his coaches talking about it and not him talking about it is another thing that should scare people because I think he's just entirely focused on football and what he's focused on. And so other people are noticing it.
I could see him having a chip on his shoulder because last year kind of turned into a little bit of the blame game for how the season went last year. Mm-hmm. People were talking about he wasn't as effective. Maybe people had gotten an answer to him, because he came here under so much fanfare. And that season was like, yes, this is Bears defense. And he was taking it to that next level. And then all kind of things started happening. And I think he got a little criticism. It wasn't scathing necessarily, but I do think there was a little criticism to maybe his game wasn't at the level that it had been previously. So I could see him kind of coming back this season. Well, one, he's probably like, thank you for cutting some dead weight called Floyd. Because even I couldn't get that boy right. So with that being said, go out and get me somebody that, he can't do it by himself. He's good at what he does, but obviously he can't do it himself. So getting Quinn was that extra piece to the puzzle. But the Bears defense to me wasn't the reason why they had the kind of season they had. So I think that blame got spread a little, and I think he kind of felt it. So he's like, okay, we can right this ship, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think expectations too. I forget which analyst it was on the NFL Network, but you had either Kyle Brandt or Peter Schrager or somebody like that saying, maybe Khalil breaks Michael Strahan's sack record. There were expectations like that and stuff like that said heading into last season. And, you have Tariq Cohen rolling up in the Batmobile and a paper jersey talking Super Bowl. Fans were excited. The city was excited in ways that I haven't felt since they went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. So I feel like, it was a palpable excitement and we all felt it. And I think, Khalil was disappointed as well. And I think that disappointment is fueling him and feeding him as well, which is another scary thought because belonging to the Monsters of the Midway is perfect for him because he's a monster on that line. And he's just a sheer joy to watch as a Bears fan who's grown up watching great defenses.
So you're obviously familiar with a lot of the defenses that we've had. Give me your thought on what this defense can be, because Akeem Hicks, barring injury, and you have Akeem Hicks back. Yes. So this is why I'm excited, and I want to hear your thing. Khalil Mack, he needs a double team. There's no ifs, ands. Without Leonard Floyd and with Akeem Hicks being hurt last year, he was getting triple teamed. Okay, yeah. And that's why one of the reasons he wasn't effective. He had 3 people to go through damn near every play. But now Akeem Hicks is back, and he's healthy, and he has a chip on his shoulder. Then you sign another premier pass rusher, Robert Quinn. Well, Akeem Hicks needs a double team because now he can take his offensive lineman one-on-one almost every play. And then Robert Quinn is next to him. He needs a double team. Hell, that's 6 linemen. You usually only have 5. You have to keep a tight end. We haven't even talked about Eddie Goldman or Roy Robertson Harris. Right. How good do you think this defense could be? now that Roquan Smith and Dan Trevathan are reunited. Trevathan re-signed in the offseason. Mm-hmm. You got Kyle Fuller, all-pro. You have a young stud who they think is going to take that other cornerback spot in Jalen Johnson. Eddie Jackson is back in his normal spot, back in playing center field as a free safety. That is huge for this team. Mm-hmm. How good do you think this team can be? Not to mention it'll be their second year. All the kinks are out and all the confusion's out under Chuck Pagano.
Yeah, now that they've got that regression over with that happened last year, I can't. I got the Super Bowl shuffle on vinyl sitting behind me, so I can't.
Okay, kudos. I was just about to tell you, I'm peeping you. I'm like, she's got an LP in the back. I was just peeping at that.
It's true. It's true. It's from my childhood, actually. It's a relic, but it means a lot. And so I can't quite compare this defense to 85 yet. But the defense that was Urlacher, Briggs, Tillman led in 05, 06, I think we're better than them. And I think we could push 85. We could do it if everyone stays healthy. That's always key, and it's kind of a generic thing. But we saw last year how that can happen. We even saw the year before when Eddie Jackson went down for the playoff game against Philadelphia. That matters a lot. You've got all pros stacked on this defense. And now that you're adding Robert Quinn to it, I think we've got something better than what the Patriots had last year. I think we've got something comparable to like the early aughts Ravens, because if Roquan Smith can finally break out, there's a lot of young talent here too. And we haven't even talked about Bilal Nichols, who he's one of the players I'm most excited about watching. He's one of these post and hype videos and getting just ripped. And he's entering his third year. He broke his hand last week in week 2, a little bad luck, but he's going to be someone key. And you mentioned Roy Robertson Harris. Those guys are going to last year we had guys like Kwiatkowski come in and fill in, and they're gone this year. No Nick Williams this year. And so we're going to need guys like Bilal Nichols and Roy Robertson Harris to be beasts. And I think that if everyone stays healthy, this is going to be hands down the best defense in the league, and one of the better we've seen in the last decade or two.
Okay. So, since we're being petty, this is Petty Friday for Maya. I have to say this. I think it's par for course we talk about defense in Chicago, because you can never say Chicago doesn't know what their identity is, because we're a defensive team. That'll never be a shift from that. They understand they have to catch up offensively like the rest of the NFL, but our calling card's always going to be a solid defense. But the question is, that's not the Achilles heel. It is the offense. What about the offensive line? What are we looking at with that? Because we know there was issues with that. And then we can also jump in there too. Someone also mentioned here concerns about special teams and place kicking situations. What are we looking at on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, that's always been the concern, right? I mean, sometimes I feel like we're just, as Bears fans, we're just stuck in this kind of horrible turnstile where once it just we're standing there with this great defense and horrible quarterbacks just keep going through. We've got, it seems a lot of analysts have said this too. I'm not the only one, but it seems a little bit concerning that Nagy and company are kind of putting all this stock into Juan Castillo. He's the new offensive line coach, and he sounds great and he seems wonderful. And he could very well turn this offensive line around. And I don't know that Jermaine Ifedi is going to be the answer. He might be one of these guys that comes over to another team and plays really well. And that could be. But, I think too, the offensive line played all right in 2018. They had a couple Pro Bowlers. And so I don't know if scheme was part of the problem last year, and play calling and quarterback play also, because there are times too where Mitch held onto the ball way too long and was sacked, and that wasn't on the O-line. So I think the O-line is a bigger strength than the quarterback. And I think that Juan Castillo is going to help them. I think all they need to do is play middle of the road. And if they do that with Nick Foles, or if Mitch can again become Superman, then if they play middle of the road with mediocre quarterback play, I think that's all it's going to take to get back to the playoffs. And so I like Cody Whitehair. I think health is the key there too. They miss Kyle Long, and they need a beast. And so I think they're going to miss his presence. And I think if either Whitehair or James Daniels is going to be entering his third year too. And I think Olin Kreutz has gone to bat for him a lot. And so there's a lot of people who believe in him. And so I think he could put it together as well. I'm
a Hawkeye, so I know his ability, and I'm glad to see him back in his natural position. Yeah. So I do have faith that he will have a better year this season. So yes. Yeah.
And I think that'll be true for most of the O-line as well. I don't know that they're going to be back to being, or back to like up in the upper maybe top 10 in the league in terms of offensive line. But I think David Montgomery's going to have a better year. And I think better tight end play. I don't know that the Bears have a better blocking tight end, but Demetrius Harris might help in that capacity. I don't know that Jimmy Graham will, but Demetrius Harris, I think, is actually going to surprise some people. I think he's going to make some key plays. And I think his presence is going to be one of the more underrated. I think he's going to become one of the more underrated signings the Bears made this year. In terms of special teams, that's anybody's guess. Who Eddie Piñeiro's putting on a little weight. He and Pat O'Donnell are kicking down in Florida. They've been practicing together, so that can't be a bad thing. He's more aware and conscious of the wind and the elements this year. He's kind of been through it, and he finished the season strong. So I kind of like Piñeiro a little bit. He's going to have a little competition too, so he's going to have to earn the job. I don't know that I'm a fan as much of Chris Tabor, the special teams coach. I really miss Taub. Yes. It's never been the same since, and so I think I'm kind of stuck in the days of yore. But the special teams to me is going to be an X factor because Tariq was an All-Pro returner. We got Cordell. We got two of the best returners in the game, two of the most dynamic. It's just a matter of can we make the game-winning field goal, and Piñeiro he's got a little fire, and there were moments last year. The Denver game was the biggest, of course, but there were moments last year where you felt like the team was really behind him and you felt like he really belonged. And he was like a key part of this team. And there were moments even where I thought, the last kicker to have this much personality, like the two that I think of are Robbie Gould and Kevin Butler, because both had just kind of fiery personalities and, you'd hear fun stories about him off field and they were fun interviews and things like that. So I think Piñeiro might be the guy actually. In terms of,
and he was put unfortunately under the microscope because of the issues that we've had with the kickers. I mean, generally speaking, most people don't pay that close attention unless obviously when you're needed, you can't do your job. And he walked into a situation that was very volatile, so to speak. So the criticism on him was going to be there, even though I'm like you. I think it's there. He made the adjustments, and I do think he ended the season well. So with that being said, I don't know that I have that much stress about it, but I like the fact that he does have to compete for his job. I think everybody should have to compete for their job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially the quarterback who will be competing for his job for the first time, really, technically, unless you count 2017 against Mike Lennon.
Don't mess with Chicken Neck.
I call him Chicken Neck all the time.
Hey guys, we're joined by Beth Mishler Elmore from she's a Bears writer for Heavy.com, talking a little Bears football right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. And one of the other articles I want to talk about is a guy we just mentioned a moment ago that you wrote about was Tariq Cohen. Your thoughts on him? He had a good year in his rookie year, All-Pro returner. Last year, not so much. He wasn't as effective. How much of that is on him? How much of that is on Nagy? Because Nagy has said a couple of times, I wish I would have liked to have gotten him more touches, especially in the playoff game. I'm like, well, you're calling the plays, you give him the ball. But nonetheless, I digress. How much is on Tariq Cohen? How much is on Nagy? And where's Tariq Cohen's mind coming into 2020?
Well, I'd say it's about 50-50, 50 on Cohen and 50 on Nagy. I know there were multiple games where I was not the only Bears fan or analyst watching. And just like, why is Tariq lining up behind why isn't David Montgomery in there? Why is Tariq the feature back right now? I don't think we're going to have that this year. I hope anyway, maybe once or twice or something for a gadget play or something. But I think Nagy's going to right that wrong, and he's going to focus on having Montgomery be a feature back and Cohen be more of like the receiving threat that he was in 2018, because he was deadly at times, and you had to account for his presence. That said, I think he's kind of. The article I wrote was I've seen a self-awareness in Tariq that I haven't seen before, and I like it. He's very fun to watch, and he's always been a very entertaining player to observe and to watch play. But he tweeted out kind of an invitation for a Q&A with fans that I thought was kind of brave for him to do. And he's like, all right, guys, you tweet me out a play where you think I messed up, and I will let you know what was going on in my head. And to his credit, he did. I mean, he broke things down. And the one key that I took from it was he seems to know what he's doing wrong. And the one thing he did was he told one specific fan, like, it's a wrap. I'm done running sideways. That's not going to happen again. So he seems to kind of know what people are saying about him and the criticism that's there. He tends to kind of run every which way but loose and every which way but towards a first down at times, trying to make something happen. And that might work once or twice, but he's not Devin Hester. He's not going to do that as much as, the Windy City Flyer. I think, though, too, it's encouraging that he's showing these signs, these kind of self-awareness, because like I mentioned, last year he was talking Super Bowl and he was very, but this year he's kind of like, well, last year upset me. I'm not happy with how I played. I was, making stupid decisions. And there were times and plays that he broke down in this Twitter Q&A where he's like, yeah, I thought someone was behind me. Clearly they weren't. I have to get better. And I haven't seen that kind of awareness from him. So I think he's growing as a man and as a player. And, he's at that age where that happens, and we could see that on the field. Plus it's a contract year. So he's going to be ready to ball out. And I think that's a huge thing too. And I think that's going to be a factor.
Sure. Beth, you're right. I haven't seen that, but to me, that shows something else, and that's his mental fortitude. Because when you open yourself up like that on Twitter, we all know how many trolls there are on Twitter, and there's millions and millions of trolls on Twitter. To open yourself up like that and answer the questions, because most of the questions he received were legitimate questions, not not trolling questions. And his self-assessment was spot on. And again, it showed a maturity that I hadn't seen, because he's always joking. He's a kid. He still seems, because he's so short, I was going to see him as a kid, but he seems so much more mature. And I think he's understanding and maybe finally realizing this is a business. This is a business. It was fun the first year because everything was going great, and not a lot of the business aspect gets thrown in your face because you're winning. You're 12-4. You're going to the Pro Bowl. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden, when things go bad and things aren't hunky dory, that's when comes out. That's when all the critique, then now you got to hear it in the newspaper. Now you got to see it on the TV and on sports segments. And I think he handled it well. And I have a newfound respect, me personally, for Tariq Cohen by him doing that. And hopefully with him being more mature, seemingly, that he'll play better. And because he's one of those guys, he can be our Tariq Hill type of guy, and just like a joker guy. He can do everything, end arounds, even run up the middle once or twice, catching the ball. There's so many different things that he can affect, ways he can affect the game. That we just got to get him up to speed. And I think with his maturity, I think that he might be that dude this year again that he was back in 2018.
Yeah, I think so. I certainly hope so. And I think, too, the presence of somebody like Darnell Mooney, who's coming in and is going to be, I don't know how much playing time he's going to get right off the bat, but I think just his presence alone, and he's going to be another speed guy. And I think a lot of those gadget plays that Nagy likes, I mean, between Cohen and Mooney out there, if they're both firing on all cylinders and are playing well, it could be actually a really exciting offense to watch. I don't think a lot of people are going to be looking for that. But if they can execute, I think we could get like a little bit better than 2018, because they're more familiar with him. They're more familiar with his scheme. And they're not going to, this time, the difference is they're not going to sit and be okay with Mitch and kind of coddle him and hold his hand through the process. And so I think that's going to, in turn, help a lot of these other players on offense as well.
Guys, she's Beth Mishler Elmore. She's a Bears writer for Heavy.com. We appreciate it. Awesome
yes.
stuff. Awesome.
Loving the LP in the back, Beth. I'm loving the LP.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for having me.
We're definitely going to reach out again soon. Absolutely. But hold on. I need you to let everyone know where they can find you and your work online.
You can go to Heavy on Bears. It's our Facebook page. Or you can find me on Heavy.com or Twitter at Beth Mishler Elmo.
There you go.
All right.
I thought that was funny when Elmo. I was like, "What?" At first, when I saw it, I'm like, "Did it get cut off?" Then I was like, "Oh no, it didn't." I was like, "Oh, okay, I see it. Elmore. Okay, I get it. I see what you did there."
Shawn is having all kind of brain freezes. I'm like, Beth Midler's coming on the show. What?
That's funny. That was actually a nickname.
Yeah, because when I said the rundown.
You said Midler, and I'm like, Beth Midler's talking sports now? No, I'm just kidding. You used to get all.
I realized that when I sent the rundown last night. I was like, Beth Midler. I'm like, and I didn't want to send another email saying, "Oh, it's not Midler's Mishler." So this morning,
I figured it out real quick.
Hey, Beth, great stuff. It's so pleasure having you on.
Absolutely, thank you.
We'll be in touch soon. Now that we have July 28th training camp start. So we'll be in touch very soon. Thanks a lot.
Sounds great.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Guys, that's Beth Mishler, not Midler. Beth Mishler
don't worry,
from Heavy.com.
I caught it. So, yeah. Well,
Would you?
What's the consensus with everybody, Shawn, is defense, guess what? Got upgraded again. Offense.
Upgrade. Who sings that?
Beyonce. Upgrade. Well, the offense, that's the problem. There's still a struggle to find the right offensive fits. And the thing is, I hate to say this, it's the quarterback position that's the issue, because to me, everybody else on the field is more than competent to do their job. It's the quarterback position.
But not so fast, Maya. Not so fast. They got a new. Here's the thing that freaking bothers me. They got a new offensive line coach. So now you have to learn his scheme, the way he likes things done.
Okay.
There's a lot to be said about consistency. And so now I wonder how many games it's going to take those guys, especially with COVID-19, where they're not having OTAs and involuntary workouts up at Hallis Hall. How that's going to affect these guys. You can't watch a Zoom. You can't have a Zoom meeting and understand, bucket steps and everything with this guy's new scheme. It's a horrible
first of all,
time for a new offensive line coach.
Here's my thing. That should have never happened in the first place, but the blame game was out there. There had to be sacrificial lambs, and there were people that were terminated. I was like, wait a minute, they was there the year you did good. Correct. And okay, you had a bad year, and I felt like the blame was misplaced grossly in that situation. My thought is there really shouldn't have been necessarily that much change, because the line wasn't the issue. It was really Mitch, truth be told. So I'm hoping he's not coming in here trying to shake up and change everything because he feels it was really their issue. Because if that's the case, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to blame Nagy and Pace for this again. If the O-line struggles because they're trying to make too many sweeping changes, I'll be like, this is your fault, because those terminations should have never happened, because you won as a team the year before and you lost as a team last year. Accept that.
Well, that's what this year's about, Maya. Like that's what they set themselves up for. Ryan Pace is aligned this to be. This is the year for him. This is the year for him. This is the year for Nagy. Like, don't think the Bears as an organization don't want to win.
Oh, they do.
I just feel like they trust people for too long. They give people too long of a leash. And Ryan Pace, like this is similar to a rebuild on the fly type of a thing. They've moved personnel in and out. I mean, granted, it's more on the coaching side, but they move players as well. Like this is a win right now situation for.
I don't disagree with that. And I'm gonna tell you something. 2020 has been a tricky year for everybody. So they better hope that it looks different than the first half in regards to luck. I'm just saying. But okay.
Yeah, it's. I don't know why he did it either. But they had to cover their ass. They did. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see, because otherwise that seat's gonna get really, really hot for Pace and for Nagy. Well, listen, we got to take a break. It's the last break of the show, last break of the week. So don't go anywhere, folks. More sports conversation coming up. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
Wicked Loans presents the Sports Flash, driven by Jeep on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The Cubs have finalized minor league deals with 3 more draft picks, including second-round selection Earl Caraway. Left-hander Luke Little and right-hander Cohen Moreno also signed their deals. Little was selected in the 4th round. Moreno went in the 5th. The Cubs announced first-round pick Ed Howard's deal on Monday. As far as the latest signees, the 21-year-old Caraway went 6-2 with 11 saves and a 2.47 ERA in his final 2 seasons at Dallas Baptist. The 6'8" Little struck out 86 and 44 in the 3rd innings over 2 seasons at San Jacinto College North. Moreno was a prep star at Panther Creek High School in North Carolina. The PGA Tour announced they'll implement stricter COVID-19 protocols after 3 positive cases were confirmed prior to this weekend's Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut. Brooks Koepka among a group of 5 players who had withdrawn from the event after his caddy was among the positive tests. Blue Emu promises no chill, no burn, no odor, just what you need to soothe tired muscles and joints. The Sports Flash is driven by Jeep Truck Sanders, 1330, 95.9 The Zone.
Rusty Wallace here for Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief. This pain cream is the official pain cream of NASCAR for a reason. It works fast, and you won't stink. There's no messy, greasy, nasty feel or any stinging or burning here. This is pure pain relief. Don't run your engine on Octane 89. Get the good stuff. And meet me in Victory Lane. Blue Emu works fast, and you won't stink.
Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
Hey, Say that bee. It's National Pollinator Week.
Did you know pollinators are more than just honeybees? Did you know 1 in 3 bites of food is made possible by pollinators? That's why Prairie View A&M Cooperative Extension is prepping for pollinators this week. Identify your backyard pollinators, take photos, and plant flowers to help them thrive. Visit agnearme.com. That's agnearme.com to download our pollinator prep guide today. Let's get prepping for National Pollinator Week.
Guys, welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning. It is the final break of the show, final break of the week. And Maya, she's cheesing over there.
Because I don't know what it is about that pollinator commercial. For some reason, it makes me laugh. I'm like, I feel like I need to go buy some flowers and start planting stuff. I want to be team pollinator.
So Armando Lara III, he writes, Mike Glennon still hurts my soul.
You think he didn't hurt your soul? He ripped it out, didn't he? No, I'm just kidding. Dude, I was like, that's a joke. That's an insult. At least they could have stuck. If that was the case, you could have stuck with Mark Sanchez longer than that. At least that was good to look at. Not doing good.
That was coming. Maya's eye candy. She loves it.
Well, I'm like, if you're going to be awful at the position, can you at least look good doing it? Is all I'm saying. That's it. Actually, before we jump into the segment, I want to make a couple notes here. So we got a couple Team SportsZone Chicago people who had birthdays this week. So on Tuesday, from the Smoke Fellas, Damani's birthday was on Tuesday. So happy birthday to him. And today is Ben's birthday. So happy birthday to two of the Smoke Fellas. And of course, shame on us, Shawn. I feel bad. Last week was Clarence Council's birthday. He is our social media blog posting guru on this for the show.
He's a social media posting fool, boy.
Yeah. So so with that being said, he posts on our blog. He puts all the news stories on our Facebook page. So happy birthday to Clarence as well. We're late, but still, I did not forget. So, and the thing about, also, when you mentioned the app, Shawn, everybody go download it. You can get it in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. SportsZone Chicago, look for it and just download it, because not only does it have former shows, podcasts, as well as the videos, it also has a blog with all the trending and hot stories there as well. And it actually, so you can listen to the show live, and coming soon, you can listen live and you can text and all this stuff. So the app is like a one-stop shop for everything SportsZone Chicago, just so you'll know.
I love it. Maya be doing this stuff because I'm IT stupid. So I can get on my email and that's about it. What's Armando Lara Jr.? You got to give Ivan a shout out. He does have great stuff in the back. Stop it. Yeah, he's one of those people.
Thanks,
one of those people. You need to move to your left a little bit. Just slide to your left. Slide to your left. No, slide to your left. Slide to your left. No, yeah, see, he's your other left.
I mean, anyway. I was about to say something, but then people were getting their feelings about it. So I'm going to refrain from saying what I was about to say. We're an equal, opportunity employer. We extend services to even those that may be challenged in some ways. Specifically, their choice making about their sports teams. So I said that as politically correct as I possibly could.
Hey, before we get back, last housekeeping item, Phenomenal Auto Spa, 2216 South Kedzie still has a deal for rideshare drivers. If you're a rideshare driver, and it has definitely picked up now that the city is opening back up. We were in phase 4 as of today. They still have a deal for rideshare drivers. You go there. Yeah, obviously they'll see the sticker in your window and just say, "Hey, the code word is SportsZone Chicago." What will the code word get you? I'm glad you asked. It'll get you a $10 wash if you have a car or an SUV. It's outside, inside. It'll disinfect the inside. So if you're driving around, you don't know who's got COVID, who's got what. They cough in your back of your car or whatever. They disinfect the car for you. Now it's $10 for cars and SUVs, and it's $15 for an extra large SUV like a Excursion or an Escalade EX or a minivan. So $10 or $15. You can't beat that with a stick. Outside, inside, and they disinfect the inside. Make sure you tell the boy Leon is that guy there. Make sure you tell Leon the code word, which is SportsZone Chicago. Tell him I sent you, and they'll charge you double. I mean, kidding. No, I'm kidding. He'll give you the deal. So, all right. Phenomenal Auto Spa, 2216 South Kedzie. Actually, I'm going to be in the city, so I think I'm going to go get my whip clean. So I'm going to whip in Nene all weekend.
You go whip in Nene? Really?
I got the black caddy up, man. So when I go to CrossFit in the morning, mind you, I get up at 4, which I went to today, which was a son of a gun. So I have to wake. As much as I love going to CrossFit, okay, I still got to wake up in the morning. Like wake up. So I'm driving, and so I got to put on. I got to have some crazy music. So I usually have like Tupac, or I'll have Biggie, or I'll have once in a while I'll throw on some heavy metal like Rammstein or System of a Down or Rob Zombie. And so when I'm coming around the corner, because they're literally right on the corner of 115th and Mayfield, when I'm coming around the corner, I have my windows down because it's been nice, the last month or so, month and a half. And my music, I have a Bose system in the car, so I'm blasting this thing because I'm driving, so to wake me up, to kind of get me fired up. And I come in and like, dude, we hear you like half a block away. I'm like, I need to wake up. I just need to wake up. That's crazy. But anyway, tell them about tomorrow. I see it on the screen. Tomorrow, high noon.
That's right. Tomorrow, high noon. Don't forget our other live show, one of many to come. I can't wait till we can talk about stuff next week. Check out the Smoke Fellas. They present the Humidor Sports and Cigar podcast. It's got Ben, Damani, and Kevin. They're smoking cigars. They tell you about what they're smoking, what they like. And of course, they get down and talk some sports too. So it's good stuff. So make sure if you're free tomorrow, get the app so you can be on the go and listen. But check out Humidor Sports and Cigar podcast. It's a really good show. Blatantly honest, brutally honest.
Yeah, they are. It's really good. I like it. I like it a lot.
So make sure you guys check it out tomorrow.
Going into this weekend, I'm not sure what I want to do. First of all, I'm going to go to Colombian Fest. That's for starters. I know you're like, what? No.
And that's on Saturday?
Saturday. It's all weekend, but I'm just going to go Saturday. Just, see Carmen and Roger's, he's golfing. So just hang out with Carmen and Caesar, and Roger might stop by Saturday. But just to get out, why are you laughing still?
Because Armando is always saying stuff. And he just said, Maya, I don't approve of the cup. I expect that from Shawn, but not from you. Didn't you know? I'm savage.
That's real savage. Don't mess with it. Don't mess with Armando. So that's...
Oh, anyways, I'm sorry. I digress.
Yeah, but it's so this weekend there's a lot. I'm really excited with the news that baseball's here. We got training camp set. The weather's going to be nice. It's supposed to hit 90 today and tomorrow. I think this is a great day for a great weekend. Hey, when it's cold and it's 20 below, we have that polar vortex. Believe you me, I am not complaining about 90.
I'm not either.
I'm like,
no,
okay.
I know I'm going to take the weather. I mean, I'm that kind of person. Like, to me, 82 to 85 degrees is ideal weather to me when I'm at home. I don't need 90. Now, if I'm on vacation, I'm all for it. The hotter, the better. Because generally I'm someplace where there's a beach, there's water. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm at home, though, I'm like, no, you could be 82 or 85, and that's comfortable to me. But I'm not going to complain about it because you're right. Come winter, which, by the way, our winters have been very mild.
The last 3 or 4 years, they've been very.
I mean, we may get 1 week of like unbearable weather, but even this year, I don't personally feel that winter was unbearable. In fact, it seems like our falls extended much longer, and our winter to me wasn't even that long. But that's just me. So big ups to Poxitani Phil for letting us know that, hey, don't worry, I got fat, and don't worry, you guys are gonna be good early spring. So yeah, I'm okay with 90. I just prefer 82. That's all.
Going with this, talk a little baseball to finish off the show. Both decked out in our socks. I'm looking at different scenarios. How do you feel about bringing a Nick Madrigal up? It's only 60 games. Okay. I know for him it counts again as service time, and that's fine. Who cares? But getting this guy here, here's one of the reasons why I'm liking. I want him up. Him and Lewis Robert. Well, Lewis Robert obviously signed a contract, but here's why I want them up. They don't have to carry this team. Oftentimes, when you have superstars, okay, in any sport, especially if they're a high pick or whatever, many times they have to carry their team, okay, or they're the main focus of their team. Lewis Robert is not the main focus of the White Sox. He is a big focus but he's one of a slew of big focuses on this team. Because you're looking at Tim Anderson. Can Tim Anderson lead the American League in batting again? Okay. Can his defense improve like it needs to? You look at Yoan Moncada. Yoan Moncada hit, 315 last year? He finished third in the American League in batting, behind Tim Anderson, and I can't remember who was second. Is he taking another step forward? Do we get continued consistency from Jose Abreu, who's done it for the last 6 or 7 years? Does Eloy Jimenez continue to have his trajectory continue to go up like it did last year? 31 home runs. He didn't hit his first home run for 4 or 6 weeks. Then was on the injured list twice. So you're looking at all these guys that we're looking at, and yes, we're anxious to see Luis Robert, but we're not saying, Luis Robert, we need you to save this team. I think that's going to really help Luis Robert to not have to perform, because he's not going to have all that pressure on him. And I think it's going to be helpful for someone like Nick Madrigal, because he's not going to have that pressure, because there's so many guys. You bring in a DH, Edwin Encarnacion. You bring in Yasmani Grandal, who had 30 home runs. You bring in Mazara, who's a 5-tool player who just hasn't been able to put it together. But sometimes a change of scenery does well for players. Would you like to see those guys up, specifically Nick Madrigal, this year?
This year, yes. One of the things that when we had on Scott Merkin on Wednesday, we talked about, this is not a typical season. It's abbreviated. So with that being said, depending on how this all kind of, I guess you could say, trickles out, like if they come out hot and heavy and, because we already have some people in the development pipeline, we're talking about, obviously, Jimenez and others, that we got to let it happen. You know what I'm saying? That this could be good momentum for them. But then you also have those players on deck. So my thought is that if it turns out that the season doesn't, midway through, it seems like, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs. But they very well could be making the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Because of the nature of how the season's going to shake out. So if it's a non-playoff situation at some point in the season, then yes, this is a perfect time to bring those players up, because what it does is it takes the pressure off. They know they're not playing for anything except for experience, but that they're getting that major league time that they need to develop. You know what I'm saying? But realistically, if you are in playoff contention, you're not going to rock the boat because things are working exactly the way that they are. You know what I mean? So to me, you have to gauge it by where you're at. This isn't a typical season. If it was a longer season, I'd say, obviously, we need to get these guys up. But to me, this is the chance to take advantage of this kind of, you finally got those veteran players in that you needed. You had players that were definitely stepping up their game last year, and we expect for them to keep taking strides forward. So let that be where it is. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Yes, I want to see Madrigal. There's no doubt about it, and some others. But at the same time, this is just a different kind of season. We still may see them a little later, but if all things are hitting the way they should be on every cylinder, you let it ride the way that it is and let that momentum keep going forward.
And I love the pitching staff too. We talked about that with Scott Merkin on Wednesday as well. The pitching staff as well. All the time that they, Lucas Giolito is he called him our ace, but your boy Kopech is coming back off of Tommy John. He's been throwing 100 miles an hour already down in Arizona. Carlos Rodon was supposed to come back toward the end of June and July, so I'm sure he's working out. So he's about ready. How effective could it be to say, okay, and especially because of the fact that we're not going to have pitchers going 7-8 innings, especially the first couple starts.
Nope. I mean, it all comes down to, now the pitching to me is a different situation. I like the idea of possibly having 7 starters, because you're right. You're not going to have the likes of Giolito and Lopez and so on and so forth going the distance. I mean, it's too short because the warm-up piece isn't there. They didn't have spring training like they should have. They didn't have, the April and May to get ready for the depth that they want. So this is great now that you can put in the rotate, obviously Rodon. I like this is my thing. Just go ahead and stick him in middle relief. Just because. And you're doing it. It just seems like this is where we need you, because, we can't have people pitching X amount of innings. And this is also good for you to let your arm work into it. So it's a good place for him to be. And maybe he'll get comfortable and like it. Maybe not. We'll just see. You got to throw Mike in there. I call Mike like I know him. Like,
wait a minute.
He's like, who Mike? Because everybody else calls him Kopech. I'm like, you got to put Mike in there. If people will just be like too besides themselves if you don't, because you saw what he has. And he's, like you said, he was looking good earlier like last year he was progressing through his workout. So the thing about this is he's now had that extended time to come back healthy. And he's been doing his own workouts because he's a beast when it comes to working out. Seriously. He's not your typical pitcher, so to speak. So it's a good situation to have that you've got these 7 that you can throw into that rotation that, again, it's going to feel like you're watching Milwaukee. Because, remember, Milwaukee was more about middle relief and bullpen being their strength than their starting pitchers necessarily. In this case, yes, the White Sox do have good starting pitchers, but you're going to have the ability to kind of spread others in different roles just because of who you have ready and because of how the season has shaken out. So I'm absolutely okay with the idea of using multiple pitchers throughout the season, this very short season, which could end up being very, very beneficial for the White Sox.
It really could. And it helps both teams on both sides of town. I think the White Sox, I don't think they're going to be so caught up in the pressure because there really isn't any pressure on the White Sox. This is the year that they were expected to start doing well. But if you come out and come out of the gate like gangbusters, man, just maintain, okay? And then we talked about the Cubs on the other hand. They're a veteran team, and the core of this team on the north side has won a World Series. So they understand this is a great chance for us. I mean, God forbid, because we're Sox fans. But what if the Cubs are able to squeak out and get to the playoffs and get to the World Series again because it was a short season? You have the talent, you have the Chris Bryant, you have the Anthony Rizzos, you have the Contreras, they have everything. Okay, you just have a new manager that they need to
stop.
No, they just need to see if they can function with him as a manager.
How dare you not start out with what they have with not saying Baez?
Who? Baez?
Who? Is there an owl in there?
Exactly. Why are you playing, Shawn?
Why you playing, Shawn? It's Penny Friday, and I want you to get all upset, get all your feels.
No, you didn't. You just forgot. I was like, you were supposed to start out with that name, and everybody else followed. Stop playing.
What's his name again? Let me Google him real quick.
just
he could be that guy who can carry this team. If Chris Bryant and him, those two guys alone can carry this team, but you also still have Rizzo, you have Schwarber. Now that he's going to be a DH. Most likely. This team, both sides of town, and I'm telling you, how awesome would that be if both sides, if we, and this is a crazy thought, if it was a cross town, it was a red line.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We don't need that in Chicago. Jesus.
You thought we had riots? You thought we had riots last week? Oh, man.
I mean, you talk about two fan bases that don't like each other to begin with. Talk about an ass whooping. Oh, my God. Cub fans, I feel for you. Because you can't bring it. You can't bring it. You can't bring it.
There shouldn't be a Cub fan going down to the south side at all. Like you're
right. You're right. Talk that smack. Talk that smack down here. Talk that smack down here.
Like that's a very far sprint from the red to the red line. So it
is. And talking trash would not be a good idea. It's like
no. You got to remember too. Chris Bryant is going to be leading off. Chris Bryant's in the they're banking on Chris Bryant to having this like resurgent year. And I expect that from him. I expect that from Kyle Schwarber too, because Kyle Schwarber was catching fire in the latter parts of last season. Like he was hitting the ball all over the ballpark, and if you're going to put him as the DH and just have him focus on his hitting, who knows if what numbers he could put up. But I think having Chris Bryant at number 1 is going to be the biggest question mark. And once they start, is Chris going to get everything going?
You know what? We'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily like him in that one spot, but things are meant to be modified as you proceed through the season. So again, it's a short season. So you only need several games to get maybe a quarter through and say, it doesn't feel like this is, I don't like Cub fans stereotypes. Look, Armando, I can take you. So you can just stop. I can take you.
Don't mess with her.
I can take you. See, people always take knocks about Sox fan, especially the women. I can take you, according to what you say about us, stereotypes. So I got you. Yeah, how about that? Don't say anything.
Yes, in the face.
I'm just kidding, Armando. It's interesting. I will tell you something, because 2020 has been so quirky. Seriously, that would be the craziest World Series ever. It would be the most memorable thing in Chicago. That would probably, honestly, literally outdo COVID-19. Because people would be like,
in Chicago, yes.
In Chicago, people would be like, it was so wild. It was a World Series, and we thought it was Armageddon. Because
I mean, it happened in New York with the Mets and the Yankees, but it's never. I mean, we're the only city.
What happened at the Battle of the Bay in '89? The A's Dodgers.
Yeah, but that's two.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of close though. I mean, not A's Dodgers.
A's and the Giants.
Yeah.
It's still two different cities. This is on the same city.
Or same city.
Yeah, I guess it's the same.
And I don't know how if Met fans are as. I mean, I know that's a rivalry there. Sox fans, we don't take the criticism sitting down as a thing. We get mouthy about what you say. What we go in. I mean, so I mean, the Mets fans could be like that too. I don't know if they are or if they're not. I just know that Sox fans take exception to how we're treated necessarily. So now that we're on the come up, I think that. Cub fans are getting a little nervous because the shift is kind of moving away. And if everything happens the way it's expected to happen on the South Side, there will be defectors, just like there was that World Series year. And I was like, go back to where you came from. Get away. I mean, they were coming over like roaches. And I was like, Jesus, go back.
Rage.
Get out. They deny that.
Trainers, take them. We don't want them.
No, actually, no. We don't want them. No, I'm gonna tell you how bad it is. You guys swear to God that we're desperate for fans. We didn't want those fans. We're like, nope. If we don't want to increase numbers that way. We'll stay exactly where we are.
Hey, listen, guys, it has been a phenomenal week. Maya, can you believe 2 hours has come and gone? You like that?
It did. Yes. Good show today.
We want to thank our guest, Ron Luce from the On Tap Sports Network, calling in, talking a little Blackhawks hockey, Marion Hossa, Doug Wilson, little Hall of Fame inductees. And then we want to thank our new friend, Beth Mischler-Elmore. She's a Bears writer for Heavy.com for calling in, talking a little Bears football with us right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. You guys made it a phenomenal show. Man, it was good. Now his dad ticks in. All 6 of you Sox fans.
Okay. Wow. Armando, say that to my face. Okay.
Well, there's 2 of them. That's Junior, and then the third that's his son.
You can both come. Got you both. How about that? No. Next time I see you, it's on and cracking. Just remember that.
She's gonna kick you in the knee, and you're not gonna like it, Armando. And I'm gonna laugh when you're jumping up and down, holding your shin. Your knee.
Oh man!
But guys, it was a great show. We'll see you on Monday.
Yes.
Same bad time, same bad channel, 9 a.m. to 11 Central Standard Time. So for my Puerto Rican Swiss Army knife himself, Ivan Vargas,
the Wiz.
See you guys on Monday. The Wiz. Oh man.
Say goodbye.
I did. Peace. See y'all Monday.
Peace. And you see here, Little Savage herself, the one, the only, my co-host, the co-pilot in Insanity, Maya Kai.
I got 3 words today. Get the app.
Yes.
Okay, I like it. Guys, I'm your boy, the Superback, Shawn Sierra. We'll see you on Monday, and we'll be fired up after a good weekend. I shouldn't be hungover. I don't think I will be. I'll be tired, but I don't know about hungover. Guys, we'll see you then. So until then, Maya had 3 words. I got 2 words for you. We out.